In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro signed the decree to carry out a constitutional reform in a democratic and participatory manner. Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodríguez said Wednesday that the decision of the United States government to remove Cuba from the list of countries that allegedly sponsor terrorism is a sign that its destabilization plans against the Caribbean island have failed. Israel and Hamas have reached an agreement on a truce in the Gaza Strip after 15 months of genocide. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro signed the decree to carry out a constitutional reform in a democratic and participatory manner. During his nation's annual message, the Venezuelan head of state announced the creation of a commission in charge of carrying out the constitutional reform and proposed prosecutor Tarek William Saab as its president. Maduro detailed that the constitutional reform will have three general objectives, which are the expansion of democracy, the construction of the new state to define the kind of society demanded by the people, and to lay the foundations of the new self-sustainable economy. Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodríguez said Wednesday that the decision of the United States government to remove Cuba from the list of countries that allegedly sponsor terrorism is a sign that its destabilization plans against the Caribbean island have failed. During a press conference in Havana, Rodríguez denounced that the list is unilateral and arbitrary and lack credibility and prestige on an international level. He also reiterated that the Cuban government has maintained and continues to maintain the firm and historic resolve to hold a respectful and responsible dialogue with Washington on the basis of equality, sovereignty, and without interference in his country's internal affairs. The foreign minister highlighted the considerable humanitarian damage that the U.S. sanctions and blockade have had on Cuban families and praised the resilience of the Cuban people and government in the face of the U.S. hostile policies against the island. The world celebrates the Cuban victory after the island nation was removed from the U.S. list of state sponsors of terrorism, while they kept on calling for an end to the coercive measures against the Caribbean country. The measure announced by the U.S. government was welcomed by nations such as Venezuela, Colombia, and Bolivia, as well as by representatives of the Cuban solidarity movements. Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro stressed the need to lift the economic, financial, and commercial blockade that has affected Cuban society for more than 60 years. For his part, Bolivian President Luis Arce praised the decision and reaffirmed that justice had been done after the unilateral and notorious listing in 2021. Organizations such as the National Network in Cuba and the ALBA TCP welcomed the news and highlighted the global solidarity that led to this result. Cuba's Ministry of the Revolutionary Armed Forces reported Wednesday that search and rescue teams have not been able to locate the 13 comrades missing in the Army depot accident, which occurred in the eastern province of Holguín last week. 1 week after the event, specialists have concluded that the possibility of survival is now null. In the text, the government body said, due to the extreme complexity of the area resulting from the explosions, the effects of the accumulated gases and the severe damage caused, as well as the real danger of landslides due to the structural damage to the site, it has not been possible to reach the location of the 13 comrades who heroically faced the incident in order to prevent it from spreading. The communique also states that, based on the work carried out and the analysis of the specialist, the Ministerial Commission created by order of the Minister of the Armed Forces to conduct the corresponding investigation, together with the competent investigative bodies, came to the conclusion that the accident site is inaccessible and therefore there is no possibility of life at the site. Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel offered his condolences to the families of those who died in the accident that occurred in a construction site that stored war material in the province of Holguín. The Cuban president detailed that it deeply hurts to confirm the death of officers, non-commissioned officers and soldiers who heroically faced the accident in a construction site that stored war material in the military region of Holguín. I send my heartfelt condolences to their families and friends. They died heroically, and as heroes, they deserve our most heartfelt homage and the accompaniment of their loved one in the pain of their loss. In the United States, activists from the Code Pink organization interrupted the confirmation hearing for Florida Senator Marco Rubio, who was nominated by President-elect Donald Trump to become Secretary of State. Demonstrators rejected Rubio's nomination and denounced his support to coercive sanctions against several Latin American countries.
We were in the Marco Rubio hearing, and three courageous activists with Code Pink got up to say that Marco Rubio is no diplomat. He's a war hawk. He's an interventionist. They talked about him supporting the interventions in Latin America, the brutal sanctions in Latin America that have led to people going hungry and being forced to migrate, his support for the war in Israel, and that what we need is a real diplomat who will stop using militarism and interventionism and instead really be a diplomat, and that is not Marco Rubio.
The President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, assured that the war against drug trafficking declared by former President Felipe Calderón in 2006 was an irresponsible decision. According to Mexican President, Calderón's decision to declare war in the country was the most authoritarian decision in the country's history. In this context, Sheinbaum highlighted that the former president's strategy consisted of violating the rights of citizens by promoting extrajudicial executions, corruption, and drug trafficking. In addition, the head of government highlighted that with the arrival of the fourth transformation to power, there was a change in state policies to address the situation of organized crime and drug trafficking, providing opportunities for young Mexicans.
Es una de las decisiones más irresponsables.
It is one of the most irresponsible decisions ever made by a person who became president, as you rightly said, through electoral fraud, first of all, who has ever declared a war in his own country.
Primero, ¿quién declara una guerra en su propio país?
War means permission to kill. I have said it several times. To declare a war means that the laws take second place and that there is a regime of exception. It should be clear for all those who talk about the rule of law, those who fill their mouths talking about the rule of law, and that there is authoritarianism in Mexico. And actually, in the end, the most authoritarian and irresponsible decision that has ever been taken in the last presidential terms was Calderón's decision to declare war.
Salvadoran President Nayib Bukele defended the reactivation of metallic mining on the grounds that if the river gets polluted due to his project, it is because they are clean. For its negative consequences, the Salvadoran legislation banned the practice that Bukele is now willing to reactivate. The president categorically assured that mining is not linked to the river's pollution, but showed no scientific evidence of this criteria. In contrast, studies endorsed by the United Nations unfolded that 90% of industrial extractive operations use cyanide. That is why experts have asked the executive and the legislature to disregard this initiative. And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The government of China condemns U.S. sanctions against more than 30 national companies. Companies belonging to the mining, solar and textile sectors were included in a list that bans them from exporting to Washington due to suspicions of forced labor. In this regard, the Foreign Ministry spokesperson Guo Yankun pointed out that the United States' goal is to interfere in the internal affairs and cause damage to China's interests. As a result, China reaffirmed Beijing's commitment to safeguard the legitimate and legal rights and interests of domestic enterprises. This Tuesday, after the diplomatic visit of the Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin to Vietnam, it was announced that Russia will support the country's accession to the BRICS. Also, Russia informed that it is ready to participate in the creation of the nuclear power sector of Vietnam. Alexei Lishavkov, General Director of Russian State Corporation Rosatom, praised Vietnam's decision to return to the Ninh Thuan 1 nuclear power plant project agreed by Moscow in 2010 and rejected by Hanoi in 2015. Russia has also offered energy supplies to the Asian nations such as oil and liquefied natural gas. Units of the Western Combat Group of the Russian Army liberated two important communities in Donetsk on Wednesday. This was announced on Wednesday by the Russian Ministry of Defense. It concerns the communities of Tersi and Neshuzhnoye. The Ukrainian troops lost in the final battle at least 600 troops and 3 ammunition depots in the Kharkov region. Moreover, 4 electronic warfare stations were reportedly destroyed, along with severe damage caused by 2 mechanized brigades. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has banned members of the executive from negotiating with Russian political leaders. The Foreign Ministry reiterated that talks with Moscow in any format were not under consideration. Meanwhile, Kyiv is waiting for official contacts with the new U.S. administration to be established before meeting with President Donald Trump to discuss the next step towards conflict resolutions. Ukraine insists on becoming a member of NATO under the pretext of a possible warranty of peace and security for the country. United Kingdom non-governmental organizations criticized the government for maintaining the sale of aircraft parts to Israel despite their possible use to commit military crimes against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip. The members of these organizations made a statement in which they denounced that the government prioritizes international defense obligations over the possible misuse of aircraft by Israel in bombing the Palestinian civilian population. In this sense, they condemned that despite the fact that the United Kingdom is aware of this possibility, it continues to export the components. They also accused London of showing total disregard for Palestinian lives after the London government published a document in which it reiterated that no human rights concerns can override its commitment to supply the pieces. And we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.